Lucasfilm and Disney Plus dropped the first two episodes of Kenobi. I've got my mild spoiler review for those first two episodes coming up right after this. Hey everyone, how you doing? Happy Star Wars Kenobi celebration weekend. I am here with my spoiler review, or mild spoiler review, for the first two episodes of Kenobi. They dropped yesterday, surprisingly, at 9 p.m. PT after they had shown them for people at Star Wars Celebration at 7 p.m. PT. I did not go to that because I did not want to risk getting COVID even more going into an arena with a bunch of people. So I decided to stay out of it. But I was able to watch it here comfortably in my hotel room, which is where I'm recording this video from, and had a lot of fun watching Kenobi. I tell you, overall, here's my feelings on Kenobi. The first two episodes, I liked it. I like where it's going. I like what it's presenting to me. I like where we're taking Kenobi in terms of as a character. I like where we find him, as Deborah Chow promised us. He's a man who's a bit broken by everything that's happened during the prequel trilogy and the Clone Wars, and he's a man who has spent some time now dealing and ruminating with the fact that the Jedi lost, that they were tricked, and in the end, the Sith have come into power here. Palpatine is ruling the galaxy, and he is hiding out. Essentially, Kenobi, 10 years later, is a Ronin, a masterless samurai who is living out in this cave by himself with his cute little, gadgets there that tell him if someone is in the cave or not. He's got a Jawa for a friend who he trades parts for and money, and they have a fun exchange about him stealing stuff from Kenobi's own lair there in order to sell the parts of them back to him, which is really funny. But Kenobi is rather, he's a guy who's cutting up meat, for a living. He steals little pieces of meat every night to make for his dinner, and he is a Jedi who still has that impulse to fight, an impulse to defend, an impulse to fight for the person in need or in a lower station against the establishment, against the evil, but doesn't act on it. And that's where we find him kind of in a state of limbo, in essence, living out his days, checking up on young Luke. Much to Owen's chagrin, we have a great back and forth between Uncle Owen, of course, being played there by Joel Edgerton, and Kenobi, when Kenobi buys some parts from the Jawa to maybe build a little model X-Wing fighter for Luke or whatever, and drops those parts off, and Owen is not happy about it. And they have a back and forth, which we've seen in the trailer about, you shouldn't, I don't want you to train him. What are you going to train him like you did his father, which really puts Kenobi back. We get the Inquisitors that come in, and the Inquisitors are quite a presence and a force through the first two episodes of Kenobi. Their overall goal is to hunt down the Jedi, but Reva is obsessed with hunting down Kenobi, and it may lead back to an opening scene from the first episode where we may have seen Reva as a younger person in the first episode, a youngling possibly there, when Order 66 goes down. And certainly the opening of the episode is very powerful, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. So I'll just say overall, I enjoyed the first two episodes, but I feel like the second episode had a lot more troubles with it than the first episode, or a lot more problems with it. I had some issues with how a certain character was able to keep getting away from three people who were trying to capture her, and they eventually do capture her, but then her ability later to outwit and outsmart and outrun a human being like Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of stretched the boundaries of credibility. And certainly Flea, I think, was not the right choice to have as kind of this villain in both of these episodes. He was completely out of place, took me out of the show for sure. So the second episode I felt wasn't quite as powerful as the first episode, unfortunately, but I do like where we're going. I do like where they're taking Kenobi, and certainly that last scene of the second episode was got me very excited to see what we've got coming up here in the next 4 episodes. And we don't have to wait too long. Next Wednesday is the next episode here for Obi-Wan Kenobi. So the things that I liked, certainly Ewan McGregor. I enjoyed Ewan McGregor. I thought he was fantastic as Obi-Wan Kenobi, picking up right where he left off in terms of really understanding the essence of this character. He's, of course, 10 years later, so he's older. And of course, it's been, 20 years since the last installment, or a little bit under 20 years since the last installment. So you see the age on his face, and you see the pain and the hurt. And Ewan does such a great job in certain moments, like when after he's clocked out and he's sitting on that caravan, taking him back to his area where he lives there on Tatooine, checking in on Luke. You can see the love he has there for Luke. The back and forth with Owen, you can tell that there's a lot of damage, a lot of hurt, a lot of guilt. He has a nightmare sequence where he wakes up from a nightmare and reliving the stuff that happened between him and Anakin. So certainly still haunted by all of that. And in the second episode, when Bail Organa comes to him to help him in a situation, the hesitancy and the real fear and genuine desire not to open the door to embracing being a Jedi or doing the things that a Jedi does, again, because it took him just this long to be able to come to a place of acceptance that they lost, acceptance that he lost Anakin, acceptance that he may have wasted his life being a Jedi, and now does not know what to do going forward because he feels probably powerless to take on an entire empire by himself, what he imagines to be by himself, because all his brothers and sisters and of different genders in the species as well, who were Jedi from multiple planets in the galaxy, were killed off. So certainly for him, there's just a lot of weight that he takes on, and you can see it in those real emotional exchanges with Bail Organa, with Owen, even in the sweet, lighthearted exchanges with that character in the second episode. The back and forth between them is really sweet and does give you a reminder of their relationship in the original trilogy. So that was great to see. I really enjoyed that. I don't want to spoil too much, but I guess I can say that Leia is a big part of the first two episodes of this show. It was a real surprise to see that, and I liked it. That's another thing that I liked, is the introduction of Leia here, because how do you solve the Luke Kenobi problem? Well, you bring in Leia to essentially be the Luke portion of that situation. So if you can't train Luke because Owen doesn't want him near Luke, well, how do you replace Luke? Well, you replace him with his twin sister Leia there, who Bail Organa and his wife are taken care of on Alderaan. So it makes all the sense in the world to do that. And I like the way it works. Vivian Lyra Blair gives as good as she gets. She's so, you can totally see Leia in her precociousness, in her stubbornness, in her back and forth with her cousin. She's a young girl who can already tell isn't going to take any guff from anybody, but also feels that sense of a little bit of shame that she's not an actual blood Organa. And certainly that when the cousin takes advantage of that, there's real hurt in her face. And there's a beautiful exchange between her and Jimmy Smits when they have that conversation about it, which I think is really precious. I think the direction here from Deborah Chow, for the most part, is really good. The cinematography, the overall look of it all, the pacing of it all really works for me. So I think she does a fantastic job directing the show itself. And I also think that I like that it takes its time to lead up to Anakin, takes its time to lead up to Vader. It lays the groundwork, these first two episodes. It lays the foundation of where Kenobi is in his life and where he's going to go, where he needs to go, and what he's going to be called to do, we imagine, because we do hear that clip from the prequel trilogy where Amidala is saying there is still good in him. There is still good in Anakin. So certainly kind of laying the groundwork of where we're going to go with that. And I like the writing on the show. I really like a lot of the exchanges here between the characters. Joby Harold and Hossein Amini and Stuart Beatty doing a really nice job with the exchanges, as I said, with Owen, the exchanges we have between Reva and the Grand Inquisitor and the other Inquisitors there. The stuff with Leia and Obi-Wan as well, the back and forth with them, I think is really great. So let's talk about the things that I didn't like. Well, I hate to start this way, but I thought that whole sequence with Leia and the people trying to capture her and all of that was borderline ridiculous. And this is where the complaints about Disney-fying Star Wars starts to bother me a little bit, or you start to see that there's validity to that concern, because I thought the chase in the forest was really ridiculous. Now, don't get me wrong, a 10-year-old in her own element could probably outwit three guys like that in that situation. But the way they played it out, the way they directed it, the way they staged it, where the two guys were like out of breath or whatever because they couldn't catch her, I thought was really ridiculous. There's no need to do that to reinforce the fact that Leia is such an awesome kind of badass young lady who becomes an awesome badass woman. there's no need. There was a better way to direct that scene, I think, that would have worked a lot better. I mean, recasting Flea probably would have been the number one thing I would have done. Flea sticks out like a sore thumb. He has no business being in a Star Wars show, and it was just terrible to see. I mean, the guy wasn't even the leader of the Nihilists in Lebowski, but somehow he's going to lead this crew, and he's an incompetent buffoon. So if Reva is supposedly this, really strong, driven inquisitor who is going after Kenobi, why would she hire these three buffoons to go after Leia? And yes, they do capture her. Certainly they accomplish the goal, but they're so easily outwitted by her for a while, and then eventually Kenobi gets the best of them as well. And it just doesn't have that menace or that real dread that you were hoping to have. And I guess that's another problem that I have with the first two episodes, is that I was promised this hard, gritty exploration of a man who is questioning his faith, and we do get that in the first episode, but the second episode becomes a Disney morning cartoon. And I think that's where you start to lose a little bit of that. And look, there was nothing wrong with the very sweet exchanges between Ewan McGregor and Vivian Lyra Blair as Leia and Kenobi. It's really great, or as Ben. It's really fun. But the problem is that everything around it doesn't 100% work. So it starts to kind of lose its power and lose its weight. Another thing I didn't like, and I hate to say this, but I don't feel like Moses Ingram is really stepping up to the plate here as Reva. I was very excited with her casting. I'm cheering for her to do better. I'm cheering her for her to be more realistic, more believable. And there's a difference. Actors know there's a difference between someone acting tough and someone being tough. And I think Moses Ingram is acting tough as opposed to being tough. The pursing of the lips and the, cutting off of the words and the lowering of the voice and the staring through people, all of that is like surface level tough. What you're looking for in a character like this, especially a character who's been hunting Kenobi for apparently 10 years or for a long time, you want a character that's a little more seasoned, a little more experienced, a little more lived in, a little more grizzled. It has to be there. And I think there's too much of the play acting tough and not enough of the real energy essence of tough coming through. But I'm hoping that that does happen as this goes along, because I got a feeling that I think she was in the first scene. I think she's a youngling, and I think later on we're going to find out that she has, how can I say this, that she has, that she's going to turn good, and that she's going to realize through an exchange with Kenobi or with Leia that she's on the wrong side of things. So I won't be surprised by that. I also think Kumail Nanjiani was an interesting choice here, and he brings a nice energy to anything he's in. But Kumail can play the same character, and I feel like we're seeing the same character he's played in The Big Sick, in Silicon Valley, even in Eternals. You sense that there's the same character, and this is what you're going to get from Kumail. And I was hoping for something a little more. I mean, if he's supposed to be a con man who's out here doing the things that he's doing, he was funny. Don't get me wrong. That was accomplished. But, if he's living on the street and he's surviving, I just wanted a little bit of a harder edge, wanted to see a little bit more of a harder edge there. And I'm not sure what his purpose is. Being a fake Jedi is certainly fun, and being a con man and all that is cool. But there has to be something more than just what we're seeing. And so I'm holding out hope that there is something more to what he's doing. Also, Benny Safdie it just seemed like he didn't 100% fit. And of course, nothing against Benny Safdie. I think he's a great director, a good actor. I just didn't feel like it 100% fit overall. So, I feel like the second episode overall just kind of dropped the ball. And even Reva revealing that Anakin is Vader and that he's still alive. I get why you do that, because she's essentially your third lead. You want her revealing the truth, and she's going to be the connective tissue between the two, initially going after Kenobi, and I imagine later turning on Vader and being an ally with Kenobi. But I just was expecting a little bit more here from her. So when she reveals that Anakin is Vader and still alive, it doesn't carry the same weight it would have if she had, been delivered a better performance over the first two episodes. I think there would have been more weight to that. But that being said, that ending was fantastic. Seeing Anakin in the back to tank, hearing the breathing, the old school Darth Vader breathing, really, really worked. And I enjoyed that, because of course you connect that to Luke and Empire Strikes Back in the back to tank as well. You would get the generational thing going on between father and son, experiencing the same thing at different times. Just kind of cool to see that throwback. And there was enough throwback certainly to the prequel trilogy. Certainly there were some elements of that I thought were really cool to see. Some of the better elements of the prequel trilogy were throughout the first 2 episodes. Although Jimmy Smits did a fantastic job as Bail Organa. It was great to see him back. He is older. He is more grizzled, a little more than 10 years. But maybe raising someone like Leia, who is just all over the place and doing what she wants to do, will age you a little bit more than raising a little bit more of a regular daughter, so to speak. So, but very sweet exchanges between him and Vivian Blair there as Leia. So, there's a lot here to enjoy. But it doesn't 100% hit the mark. So I'm hoping the next 4 episodes, we've kind of now laid the groundwork of what we've got here. And now we're going to get a little more serious, a little more focused. Doesn't mean you can't have the lighthearted moments. Certainly Star Wars always has the lighthearted moments, but I don't want to lose the stakes in the lighthearted moments. So I'm hoping that the stakes stay very real as we go through these next 4 episodes and we lead to this battle between Kenobi and Vader. And the lighthearted moments work to elevate that and to flesh it out a bit more and to decorate the stakes a bit more. So we have a fuller picture of the world that everybody is trying to create here, led by Deborah Chow in Kenobi. So those are my overall thoughts on it. Let me know what you thought about it in this review here. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments section down below. Hit a like on this video and share it on your social media. Go ahead and follow me as well if you want on social media at The Rocha Says on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. The Outlaw Nation on Twitch. And if you want to support everything that's going on here on the Outlaw Nation, head on over to Patreon, patreon.com/John Rocha. All right, this is my spoiler review for Kenobi. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll talk to you next time with another brand new review here on the Outlaw Nation. Be well.